This is the United Kingdom, which consists of 4 spectacular countries. One of the most spectacular of these countries is Wales. It has many glorious mountainous countrysides, counties, villages and towns, including Wrexham. Wrexham was home to many historic buildings and landmarks. Some of these included churches like St Giles. That's me. Greetings. I am St Giles, the Parish Church of Wrexham. You can call me Giles. I am the town's oldest surviving church, having watched over it since the 16th century. But I'm actually the 3rd church to be built on this land. There were 2 churches here before me. Let me tell you something about them. If my memory serves me, the first church dates back to the 13th century. I don't know exactly what he looked like, but he might have looked like this. As nice as he might have been, his life was sadly short-lived. He died in 1330, when he was suddenly blown down in a storm. Legend has it that God was punishing Wrexham for having their market days on Sundays. So as a precaution, the locals moved their market days to Thursdays. Later on, a new church was born to replace him. But he too had an abrupt ending when he tragically burst into flames. Wrexham needed yet another church. That's me. I was built throughout the 15th and 16th centuries. I'm still here today, and am known as one of the 7 wonders of Wales, although parts of the former church still live inside me. Now, I'm going to tell you a brief story about myself and some of my church friends from the town. I am a member of a Tudor family of churches, and my religion was originally Roman Catholic. But in the 16th century, I became Protestant during a period of political change. I have always served the town as a place of worship, even during the interregnum years of the 17th century, when some of my inside features were removed. Then, at the dawn of the 18th century, I received countless gifts from Elihu Yale, the benefactor of Yale University. Among these generous gifts was a new gallery. Then a brand spanking new organ, the first time I had had an organ since 1643. And then during the 19th century, my interior underwent countless changes. This was mainly due to the rapid increase of Wrexham's population, and I required additional seating for my congregation. This added seating included some new galleries. A triple-decker pulpit was even added to my east nave. By this point, I could take a maximum of 2,700 people. Phew, I could do without all this weight. But this was not enough. I still had trouble handling the weight of the Wrexham population, especially when my capacity was reduced to 1,350 by the late 1860s. Oh, I can't take much more of this load. As a result of my stress, additional churches and chapels were required. One of these new churches was St Mark's. That's him. Mark was a traditional Protestant church and one of many additional churches born to support me. Mark was Wrexham's tallest church, and he could sometimes be very boastful about it. Another church includes St Mary's. She is Roman Catholic and serves as a replacement for a former Catholic chapel from King Street. She considers herself to be Wrexham's prettiest church. There were also Sion and Bryn y Ffynnon chapels in Regent Street. Both were Methodist chapels, with Sion being Welsh and Bryn y Ffynnon was English Wesleyan. They both had much in common. They were built due to Wrexham's increasing population, having replaced smaller chapels before them, and they loved educating their religions. There were so many churches and chapels born around Wrexham, I could go on forever to introduce them all, but I would like to introduce just one more church, St John's the Baptist. Here he is. He was built by John Jones, the town's greatest benefactor, who founded the Island Green Brewery. Like his builder, who built him in memory of his wife, he was the most generous and hospitable of Wrexham's churches, and he loved giving religious education. Even though we didn't always agree, we all truly cared for each other. With me being the main parish church, I serve as a father figure for every other Wrexham church. But more than this, there were many changes going on throughout the town. Much of this redevelopment occurred throughout the 19th and 20th century. While I still live to this day, much else does not. I have watched Wrexham altering around me for centuries. Among these redevelopments was the construction of the railway line to Ellesmere, which cut through half of the area around me. The railway could be very noisy, with trains racing past, day and night. Then, later in the 20th century, many other historic landmarks disappeared around me. This included most of the churches I have introduced. However, these were partially due to structural problems or losing their congregations. For example, Mark's congregation had fallen to less than 100 by 1956, and there was no money to keep him alive. So he was put to sleep and was demolished in 1959. This multi-storey car park was built on his land. Bryn Ffynnon died in the late 1960s due to the Grosvenor Shopping Centre redevelopment. He was replaced by the modern Methodist Church, who lives above the shops. He might be one of the less attractive modern buildings, but at least he serves a reasonable purpose. Sion started suffering many structural problems during the late 1970s. As a result, he was flattened, and these shops now take his place. As for John, he too had quite a sad ending when he began suffering from structural problems in the mid-1980s. He too was bulldozed and replaced by a set of apartments. Luckily, they kept John's surrounding wall, which stands in dedication to his generous hospitality. This major redevelopment occurred nearly all over Wrexham, shattering much of its history. The town has recently started improving, but then again, much of Wrexham's former glory has been lost. In spite of surviving, I feel sad about the loss of happy memories this town once had. If you don't preserve your town's nature, your town will be no more. For that reason, it's essential to protect as much of its landmarks as possible. Well, that's it for now. If you would like more information about me, my friends, or anything else related to Wrexham, either come to see me or visit the Wrexham Library and Archives. You could even pay a visit to Mary. Good day.